Hi everyone and welcome back. Got something very exciting to unbox this video, and that is the Mechanicore 1/72nd scale EXS Gundam, or as they named it, the Tiefsturmer Expedition. Now the kit doesn't actually come like this, it will have like an external box art like this, but due to shipping reasons I had to remove basically the outer box to reduce the size. And there's also a label stating how much each box weighs as well, which is nice. And you can see that both boxes weighed about 7 kilos. Just as a reference, a normal MG kit would be about 1.5 kilos. So this is definitely a heavy box. So let's open box A. And here I'm just showing a few examples of the runners. And hopefully you can see that the casting quality is pretty good and the details are all there. So generally with these sort of better known third-party brands, you're not going to have these sort of casting issues. But the main issue is going to be the assembly. I would say the quality of the plastic would be sort of on par with what you expect from Daban, so don't expect it to be Bandai quality. Here are some more runners, which I won't go through each of them, but just to show you why Mechanicore is notorious for having a lot of parts. This runner is for the action base, and you get 2 runners of these tiny parts that go around the base. Here is the base itself. It might look big, but you'll see in the end that the feet barely fit on there. And let's take a look at the runner roll. This is the metallic runner. Although it looks quite shiny on video, but it is actually a metallic injection runner and not plated. Here is a comparison to the thruster of the GPO2. And you can see that is less bright. And also it's not showing very well on camera, but it doesn't look very nice. And hopefully you can see there are some swirly marks on the pistons. So I was definitely a little bit bummed to see that. So let's unbox box B as well, as that's where all the juicy stuff is. So in box B you get the instruction booklet, which I'll get into in a minute. Then you get an A4 size sheet of water slides. Can't say I'm a big fan of how they look, most of them are very generic looking. And at the back there are more decals for the action base. These are quite interesting and I will show you why when we look at the manual. After that you get a large sheet of photo etch. Most of these are going to the action base and not so much in the actual kit. And then you get a large tray of accessories. On the right side you have some metal parts. So these are to add structural reinforcements because the kit will be very heavy. And on the bottom you get the usual Mechanicore cocktail of nuts and bolts. Again, those are for making sure the kit stays together. And on the left side you get all the LEDs. The slightly annoying thing though, they are grouped into sections. So say when you need the LS14 LED, you need to find out within the group of LEDs, which sometimes can be annoying. So let's go through the manual. In the first page, it's just a bunch of generic information like use nippers to cut parts and batteries not included, etc. The after sales is kinda useless too, as you need to be able to contact Mechanicore or their official distributor directly. But generally their quality control is very good, so it's very unlikely that you'll have a problem. Then in the next pages is the parts list. And there are so many runners that the letters go all the way from A to Z, then A to N in lowercase. But I kinda wish they used double letters like AA, BB, etc. instead of upper and lower cases, because there are certain letters that look kinda similar in both cases, like C and K, that sometimes is hard to find the right runners. Now this is the part about applying the decals for the action base. And it tells you to submerge it into water until it separates from the sheet. Then after applying, you need to squeeze the water and the air out underneath. And then you have to dry it for 24 hours, then peel the top layer away. Which is pretty interesting, it looks more like one of those decals for cars. So it's pretty unusual for Gunpla, I would say. Then in the next pages is the decal guide. After that, the assembly begins. And you start off with the action base, which is pretty funny because the action base has the most parts of the whole build, about 400 parts, which is more than most MG kits have. And a lot of this is due to the little parts around the base, and these are all photo etch parts which need to be glued individually, so it's very tedious. I'll just flick through the rest of the instruction. Feel free to pause if you need to see any specific part. But I just want to mention that the manual can be confusing sometimes, because there are quite a few typos for the numbering of parts. And sometimes the steps don't make sense, and sometimes it's not clear where the parts fit. So in general, you need to figure things out yourself, and don't trust the manual 100%. But yeah, I won't be showing the building process here, but if you want to see it, you can watch the snap build streams. The link is right here. So yeah, let's see what it looks like all snapped up. So this is how it looks, and to me it looks freaking sweet. The backpack stuff adds a lot of bulk and impressiveness to it, and I wasn't quite that impressed when I only had the body snapped up, but the backpack is what's crazy about this kit. I know it's a common criticism that Mechanicore kits look too cluttered, but it's an either love or hate it situation, and I really like it. But the important question is, how was the building process? And in simple term, not great, but not terrible. It really depends on your experience, and if you have done enough third-party kits, then you'll know how to deal with the issues. Like I said before, there are a lot of parts that are too tight or too loose and will need to be glued in. I haven't glued too much, just because I want to be able to paint it down the line if I do decide to. And yes, there is a huge weight issues with all the stuff at the backpack, and it's only held by all the screws you have to install, so it does take some work to pose it upright. And here it is with all the LEDs on. It is nice that, as usual, most of the LEDs have connectors, so you only have to plug them all together. But weirdly, in 2 or 3 places, such as the head, you need to do your own soldering. Also in certain places, the LEDs need their own batteries and not through the USB down the action base. That's some things you need to bear in mind. There is also supposedly the open hatch gimmicks, which is nice to see in some places. But really, you don't need more loose moving parts in this kit. Like this part in the head is supposed to be an opening gimmick, but it just looks terrible. And here the arms and shoulders are very loose, and they are the only part in the whole kit that don't have screws to tighten, so that kinda sucks. Here is a shot from the underside, which looks pretty awesome. And the LEDs in the tail stabilizer are multicolored too, so it's quite sweet to see the changing colors. So these little photo etch parts on the action base are horrible. First of all, you got to glue each 120 of them, and they're not secure and will easily pop off. So if I were to paint this, I would just remove all of them since they don't add much to the base anyway. And as usual for Mechanicore, they have these really terrible and useless movable hands. First of all, the ball joints all of the box are too big to fit into the hands, so you've got to sand them. And secondly, they're so weak that you can't hold anything with them. So I would prefer if they just gave us fixed hands, to be honest. Fortunately, canonically, the EXS has its rival supported with a crotch arm, so the weak hands don't really matter in this case. And speaking of the rival, it is a huge weapon and different sections are attached via magnets, which is nice. But the assembly of this weapon is so unclear that this is the only part of the kit where I gave up installing the LEDs. There is also a huge gap that doesn't close no matter what you do. And one of my biggest criticisms of this kit and across all Mechanicore kits is they only give you one shade of each color, which is very plain. Just look at the bottom of the rifle. The dark purple parts are all one color, and they only give you one red color, one white. So look at these beam cannon parts, they are literally just one single color. With a suit that's mostly white and red, it does make it look very plain, and in a way it kind of forces you to paint it too. And let's look at the backpack. Again, the booster packs are very loose, and there's nothing you can do to tighten it. Also, be very careful when assembling each of the 4 booster packs, because they are all slightly different than the other, so just make sure you don't mess it up. In here I'm showing off some opening hatch gimmicks, but for this one it only works if you glue the hatches to the armor part. And this foot part is supposed to open too, but for some reason there's no moving parts in there. There is also a booster mode with the extra booster packs on the legs, and you can see that it gets even bulkier. It feels sort of like the Deep Striker that they put out before. But I have to say the connection for the booster packs are also terrible. They are supposed to be pointing forward, and the legs are supposed to be bending backwards too, but it just doesn't really work, or it's just really complicated. And as I was fitting the booster packs, more and more parts got progressively loose, so I didn't really want to touch it anymore. So at last, the most important question is this kit worth the price? And the answer is, it depends. Now, the cost of this kit is roughly 400 USD, and it's only ever gonna go up as availability becomes scarce, so it's definitely an expensive kit. If you are the type of person who has experience with dealing with fitting issues and enjoys figuring things out, then this is justifiable, especially because they only make one kit every 2 or 3 years. But if you've only built Bandai kits and are looking for a smooth and enjoyable building experience, then you'll be wasting your money on Mechanicore. I will say though, if you have the option to choose either the blue or red version, go for the blue, since in the blue version you get the red accent parts in contrast with the main blue color, but in the red version everything is red, so it feels like you're getting less color separation for the money. Anyway, as a final closing word, I always say that you only buy Mechanicore for the final look and not the building experience. And that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and look forward to my next project, which will be the Gundam Artifact series. See you in the next one.